Welcome to another Rugby League Down South podcast. Coming up this week, Broncos coach TONY REA calms fears of the future. Second row MIKE McMEEKEN on his family rugby league history. Medway Dragons coach ROB POWELL on the challenge ahead and reflecting on his time coaching in Super League. And the Leigh Academy girls in Dartford, Year 10s now, set to defend their champion school's title. We also thank, of course, as ever, TotalRL.com for partnering our podcast and embedding it on their website. If you haven't gone to find it, do so, please. By all means, click through to their website. Plenty content on there too. So TotalRL.com. Go and why not listen to the podcast this week on their website? Or just go and click it at least. It would help. Thank you very much. We'll start there with the London Broncos. And I went off to their training ground early today. Not spoken to head coach TONY REA for a while. 10 rounds in now, played 10, lost 10 for the Broncos. St Helens up tomorrow. They were just about to travel up to the north when I arrived at the training ground. I asked as well on Twitter for a few of your questions for the things that you'd like to know from TONY REA and the people at the London Broncos. So I put a few of those questions to Tony in the following interview, but thought I'd get his opinions on a number of things. It's a good chat with TONY REA, hopefully. And here is his thoughts ahead of that St Helens game and also on the season so far. Tony, if I can just start generally, sort of a third of the way into the year now, how is this year compared to the previous years that you've been with this club? You know, you find it busier, harder, tougher, not as busy, more stressful?
Oh, it's different. They're definitely different. Challenging, great fun. Everyone's got their eyes up. You know, we're really looking for some opportunities. We're building nicely. You know, so. We're just looking at solutions all the time, no excuses.
This team does seem to be improving. There's been, again, recent step-ups and edging ever closer, it looks like, to a win. There must still be the belief that that's hopefully coming soon.
Yeah, well, probably you shouldn't really be talking if you're us about wins and winning and losing a bit at the moment. It's more, the things inside the game. Really what we are chasing is a performance, and once you get a decent performance and, in a consistent 80 minutes... team knowing what it's doing, executing well, then you're in a position where you might be able to talk wins and losses. We're getting, that's where everyone feels we're getting closer and closer, because we're getting closer to a performance. And if we get a performance, then the result will look after itself at that point.
There's always a danger of sometimes trivialising it when you mention sort of the mood round here, but it does seem like there is still a very good mood within the players. They're still very upbeat, and they're still very much in the belief that things are working.
Well, if they stop working hard, they wouldn't have that. The key is that they work hard. They're trying to be better. That's why it's upbeat. Big challenge at the moment, and continues to be our challenge, is execution and utilising talent. We've had an Easter period where we had just too many errors, just a collection of too many errors, which really brought to the surface that we were not really on the same page as a team. We were just working to get ourselves out of that so that we're okay to gauge that performance.
How does the week off go with this squad at the moment? Because I guess it does give you a bit of a chance to be nice and fresh.
Well, we played Monday and we've got a Thursday, so it's not really a lot different to a Friday, Sunday turnaround. So, if we had till Sunday, which would be another 4 days, it might have felt like a week off. We come in and trained on the weekend. We trained very well. It's funny, the only time it felt a bit funny was the Monday coming in, actually. We had Sunday down, and when we came in Monday, it felt like just one day off. It felt like we'd been away a week, just felt like we were starting on a Monday and we had to get on to getting ready for Thursday really quick. So we were fresh. That showed we were fresh. We'd had a rest and we'd done some work. So, as I say, you do the work, you get the confidence.
You had a really big rebuilding process to do with the squad early in the year. Are you still looking at extra bodies? Are you still sort of in the market as such?
A bit indifferent to it. We're not looking. But every you get the same emails and phone calls that every club gets, that this one might be available, do you want to loan that one, how about this one? Probably get a few more because people might think the answers are on the outside, but our bit is, I've said to these blokes, the answers are on the inside. No tricks to it. We've got to play better, we've got to think better, play better, coordinate better. That's more what we're focused on than someone coming over the hill.
So there's not any particular positions or any particular players you're thinking you're light on or you'd like to get more in?
No.
In terms of the game on Thursday, St Helens is always a tough trip, but again, a side that are going reasonably well this year.
Yeah, they're doing a good job and good on them. They've had a terrific start to the season. They've had a busy period, which will harden them up going into our game. They'll be nice and sharp and ready to play. We'll have had a little bit of a different prep, and we'd have had that weekend off. They've either had an advantage in playing or a disadvantage. You can be guessing if you're trying to work out which one it is. So, we've had a solid preparation. We're really looking forward to the game.
I know we talked before about sort of the eventful years that you've had when you've been in London. I think everyone who's been here sort of has an eventful year. Do you ever, it might be a silly question, get jealous of any success or any other teams in Super League and sort of how they're going? Do you ever, I don't mean wish you were there, but do you ever wish that sort of that success was here?
So much wish you were there, more what are we going to do to get there? This the day you sit down and you think, right, where we're at now, how do people are saying it's tough? It's been tough. We've lost 11 games, and so I just see my job is not to wish for something else. So, how can we reward ourselves for being strong through this period? How can we get this group of blokes to be playing for trophies? And how can they get core of them? Utilise what we're going through now to make it to our club's advantage. So I'd more think of that, more think forward than anything else. I'd rather be in London than anywhere.
If I can just ask you a few questions that I've had from the fans this week. Michael said, is the club planning for Super League 2 next year and survival as a club?
No, Super League 1. Well, you're not in a... There's probably 5 clubs in Super League and 5 clubs down below. It's going to be sort of... You'd be dumb if you don't have 2 plans. That's just the reality of situations. But, at the moment it's planning for Super League. It's planning to, assess the blokes how they're going now. And, planning is really based around that.
I know that there's obviously discussions that go on a lot of the time and sort of you're not particularly involved in off-the-field stuff, but Ian asks if relegation does happen, are plans in place for next year, and will those games be at Barnet?
Yes, the answer to that, plans are there. Barnet's there, everything's there. Look, if anyone wants that washed away, like any doubt, don't have any doubt. There's no doubt around the place. There's not a problem, Probably the club could do with just getting out and making a statement, but, it doesn't help anyone here because, we're focusing not on that. We're focusing on, we've got a long way to go here. We're focused on performance. But, if there's any worry there, don't worry about that. There'd be a club here, rain, hail or shine next year.
I know that obviously your role sees you sort of seeing a number of things through, but when do you start looking at next year? I mean, I know you obviously recruited a few of this squad for next year. Is that something that you're always thinking about, who you might have, who you will have, the plans?
Well, there's a thing that comes out, there's a rule, you got to, by the 1st of May, you've got to tell you, the Players Union brought it in, so that sort of makes you think of next year, but you're doing that anyway, you're doing that all the time, and as soon as you do that in the off season, as soon as someone's doing good stuff, you're trying to lay down plans for next year. That doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing. It's just what you do. So we're always doing that. Yeah.
Do you expect that you'd like to keep hold of a fair few of these players that you've got this year? I know Ben Farrer's signed up for next year, and a couple of others.
Yeah, absolutely. They're good guys and. As I said, we're going through a lot together, which will make you stronger and build you. So we need to utilise those experiences, and there's plenty of quality there. They'll be okay.
Mike's asked, what's your motivation to keep going? Because it must be tough at the moment for players and coach.
It's not as tough as people think. It's frustrating and that, but your motivation's solutions. You're just continually walking around feeling sorry for yourself. Otherwise, you would be in trouble. We're just looking for ways to be better each time, to get us into the contest, identify key areas inside of the game that we think we need to work on, to be better on, being real with ourselves, we don't want to run and when we say we're happy, we're not happy, we're just working hard is why you feel like these things are still positive. Our motivation every day is to get your job done, you've got to get out there and make sure everything's organised and ready to go, and blokes are working hard and keeping their discipline.
And Paddy's asked, when does Benji arrive?
Yeah, it goes probably right back to those original questions, and keys to get these blokes playing well. The Benjis and that. Band-aids, I'm not sure about that. Some of them work, and if something was out there. goes through your mind 100%. Any of those blokes come up, they flick through your mind, and you have a bit of a think about it, and you maybe make a phone call here and there. That's 5 minutes, and then you get on with getting the blokes out that are with you at the moment to get their jobs on.
You're a man that has London Rugby League very close to your heart. I know that you've fought for it on many an occasion and to get the best out of it. You obviously enjoy it. You said you'd rather be in London than anywhere else. You still enjoy it. It still is fun for you. I mean, I know it's a challenge, but it must be fun.
Yeah, I do. It's a sick way. I'm really enjoying the fact that we're going to get answers out of this here. That's the bit that drives you each day. You just keep thinking that. I think it's overplayed, that bit about me and London and all that. I think we're just doing our jobs, and there's plenty of people here that really love London and really commit to it. And they inspire me as much as anything. But and even some people have been here a day. You can just see they love the place and the club and love what we stand for. And I get a bit irked when I don't see it in some people, but I'm not accusing players of that, by the way. Just sometimes you see people, and even people inside the game, you think you don't really get why it's important here, but people are entitled to their opinion. But I think you just, as I say, you just want success, and success being performance.
And you talk about, you're going to get answers this year. I mean, what are the questions, or what are the answers that you're looking for this year? What is it that you are going to find out about this squad, or are finding out about this squad?
Well, just ways to get in the contest. I just think it's tough out there. We've got to confuse. We must make sure we're not confusing a bit of hard work with what it really takes. We really got to make sure that we're doing the things and technically being smart and getting through all the effort areas and things that make a difference to the game. So what we're chasing is that. At the moment we're not consistently in the contest, and that's the job. There are some little markers that we're looking at as to. I think we've got ourselves closer and closer to in the contest. We've been on top of contests in periods, but equally, we've got to make sure that we're in the contest and hold of the contest, because the moments are often not your way. Like for even in the big games and for the big teams, the moments, generally speaking, you're probably 60% of the time in life on a footy field, the moments aren't your way. So it's how you deal with that, and then if you're fighting that too much all the time, it gets a bit of a one-way. When you get your moments, you're almost resting. You're not taking advantage and throwing many punches, and you've got to ride through that whole roller coaster of getting them in and then getting them up and getting them throwing them, getting them seeing things and believing, and a couple of results might make you not see things. And so it's just riding all that sort of stuff at the moment and keeping our eyes clear and looking for the right moments there. And as I said, there's some people that are really seeing it right, really seeing good solutions and working hard, which is a great indicator for us.
And there's been a few questions as well. I mean, when all the upheaval was going on at the club, all of a sudden stories were coming out that you were going to be chief executive again, and there's going to be a new coaching setup and stuff. I mean, you're obviously concentrating on coaching at the moment. Is that sort of where you see your future, or would you ever consider the old CEO role that you used to have? No,
that's not there. That's the things that work with the team, making them playing well. When that role's done, I'll go do something else.
That's the London Broncos coach, Tony Rea. Had a good look round as well while I was having a catch-up with Tony and various other people at training ground when I arrived at Tills, Atalaya Vea, and was kind of showed me around. First time I met him before, and he was having a look for Tony Rea for me, see if we could find him. Denny Solomona was there, had a good chat with him. Talked to him a couple of times on Twitter, if that's the right way, talking on Twitter. But he's settled in nicely, and going to have a chat with Denny on a podcast in the future, I'm sure. And I had a look as well in the offices at Underhill, Barnett's old ground, which is where the Broncos now train in northwest London. They've got some old shirts just recently installed on the wall. I think they went up only yesterday from going back, dating a lot of the history. In fact, if not all of it. All the shirts in frames up on the wall. Looks great. If you head to the London Broncos Facebook or Twitter feeds, you'll find a little video which shows them all. Amazing as well how many of them have underneath coached by Tony Rea, which is rather interesting to look at. And also their squad numbers, which they put on the wall. They had a few of these at the old training ground down at Roehampton. They're a bit bigger than the ones that they've got at the moment, and they were sort of spread around the internal areas down in Roehampton. But now they've got a wall. I'll post a picture. In fact, I've got a picture I've not put on Twitter yet. I'll put it on our Facebook page as well on Rugby League Down South. But each of the numbers, the squad numbers, details the previous players that have held that shirt number before in previous seasons. Again, you could spend hours looking at the wall and looking at the wall and sort of thinking and reminiscing about these players. And on that, in fact, I had a chat with Steve McGee. You may know the name. He's the Broncos kit man. Has been there ever since the Fulham days, has seen an awful lot, seen all the players come and go, always a good friend of the players, very crucial and key to what London Broncos do from season to season. Every year, someone asks me, can I interview him? Every year, I ask Steve if I can interview him. Every year, he declines. He always says it's not about him, it's about the players, and very humble bloke. Doesn't crave the limelight at all, and a regular face for those who've watched Super League. He's always a man who takes on the kicking tee during the games. You know who I'm talking about now if you didn't before. But possibly later this year, I try to convince him that we'll have a chat. We may well hear from Steve McGee later on this year about former players and previous players and his memories. I can't promise, but I said I would ask to a few people that asked me on Twitter this week. So I did ask. It was declined, but we may have it later on in the season. One of the men who I did talk to today, though, was MIKE McMeEKEN, another of the local born and bred lads. Little did I know as well about his certain family connections with St Helens and Rugby League. That was until we started chatting. We talked about the game, his development, his season, and also his family. Here is the chat with the London Broncos second row, MIKE McMeEKEN.
Okay, so you'll be all right. All right, we'll just do a few minutes then. How's it going? Mike, well, we've seen a bit of improvement in the side over the last few weeks. Is confidence growing within the squad?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. We're starting to know all the combinations now. Like, we're all starting to click together, I think. So, yeah, it's starting to show on the pitch. Over Easter, we thought we might get the win, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. So, hopefully, the next few weeks we're working hard to get that win.
I dare say you've had a rest. You haven't had a week with a game, at least, but a tough game against St Helens this week. Yeah,
definitely, yeah. St Helens are a top side. They've been the top for many years now. They've only recently lost this season, but, it'll be a tough result, tough game this weekend. Really looking forward to it.
Are you feeling fresh, though? I mean, does it give you a different feel when you've not had to play a game and a game and a game and a game? You have had a week off when playing. Yeah,
it gives your mind a rest more than anything, really, because we were in Friday and Saturday, but more than anything, it gives our mind a rest from the toughness of the games. But yeah, we're refreshed bodies. Our bodies are refreshed. Looking forward to tomorrow night.
Double-pronged question. How are you feeling about your form this year and how you've been doing, and what's the reaction been from the coaching staff here? Yeah, well, personally, I feel like I've improved my game through the coaches and the strength and conditioning. They've got me a lot fitter and stronger, which I feel is helping me on the field. I'm starting to feel more confident in myself as well. Because there's very many people like you that are relatively inexperienced at Super League level and are really still learning the game and sort of how to attack these particular fixtures.
Yeah. I mean, we've got quite you could say inexperience, but we use it to our advantage. We're younger, so we try and out-infuse these players. So.
And what about the season as it's going at the moment? It's been tough, I guess, because no wins yet, but there must be a feeling, there must be a belief here that a win, some wins, that some success is coming. Yeah,
it's never nice to lose games. Losing's not a great feeling. It's the worst feeling in rugby, really. But like I said before, we can feel that win coming. So we're just working hard each week and hopefully getting the 2 points.
I mentioned it to Mason Caton Brown a couple of weeks ago, but whenever sort of people talk to the young up and coming Londoners and people that have been bred by this club, the question always arises: do you ever see yourself going playing somewhere else for success? But flipping the question on its head, what do you want here in order to keep you here, if that makes sense? How would you like to see this club go to make sure that you play with this club for a number of years?
Yeah, like no one really wants to leave here. We're all London born and bred, so I don't really want to leave here. I want to be here for as long as possible. A successful club, staying up, winning games, just playing well together, enjoying each other's company.
And You've got a brother, haven't you? Well, you've got an older brother, younger brother. I think I've played with him, in fact. And he's down under at the moment, isn't he? How's he doing?
He's in New Zealand at the moment, working for the NZRL, so he's enjoying it over there.
Do you keep in touch with him a lot?
Yeah, I keep him on WhatsApp all the time, Skype him a few times a week, so yeah, it's good.
And he must be really supportive of what you're doing, because again, he's a big supporter of the game.
Yeah, definitely. He's always sending out messages on Twitter. Just he stays up, and so tomorrow night he'll probably stay up till about 2 o'clock in the morning just to see the result and stuff. So it's good.
And have your family sort of bought into it as well, because they must be really supportive of what you're both doing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're at every game. They come to away games as well. So their petrol bill's quite high. But it's been rugby league's been in my family for quite a few years through my granddad and stuff. So yeah, it's been good.
Tell us about that. I didn't know your granddad was involved.
Yeah. He used to play for St Helens. So he used to play for St Helens and Warrington. So back in the 50s and stuff. So it'd be good to play. I do enjoy playing against St Helens for that reason. So.
And is that why, in a way, that you're playing rugby league or not? I mean, I know if that's bubbled away in the background, it's never been alien to you, I guess.
No, exactly. Yeah, it was definitely rugby league's definitely been in my family. To begin with, me and my brother both played rugby union, but then as my granddad has played rugby league before, I think we were probably a bit more swayed towards rugby league, I guess.
And if we're going to Google him, who are we Googling?
I'll be Peter McMeeken, so hopefully he's on there, we'll see.
I have just tried Googling Mike McMeeken's grandfather, Peter McMeeken. I can't find any current details about him. If you do have any information or any stats particularly you find online, then by all means tweet them at Ian Ramsdale. I'll send them out and retweet them to other people. We'll maybe try and get something on the Facebook page as well if you do manage to find anything. I've only had a quick look, so I'm sure a bit of in-depth research I may well throw something up. But Mike McMeeken, another of the promising young talent, I think is how they're officially called, coming through the London Broncos. Good to see. And as we mention in every interview, it's the success, it's the wins, isn't it? They're going to keep players like that at the club, and depends on what happens next year. It will be interesting to see who is around and who isn't around, and who decides that maybe the time isn't right for them to carry on. But all that, of course, still to come. And I should mention that I was meant to this week talk to the management structure, the new management structure at the London Broncos. I was hoping to include that in this week's podcast. Unfortunately, because of diary commitments and clashes and me being busy and them being busy, I haven't managed to do it this week. So we will do it next week on the podcast, hopefully. That's what the plans are at the moment. Still not entirely confirmed, but hopefully we'll do it next week, and we'll get the thoughts of the new management structure at the London Broncos about the plans for the future and the direction and where things are going now, with a slightly different look. I know we're entering mid-season now, really, but the London Broncos with a new look and how they will go forward. We'll hear from them next week. If you do have any questions, as ever, you can tweet at Ian Ramsdale. Tell me the question, tell me what you'd like to know, or you can email rldownsouth@gmail.com, and I will make sure I include your questions in the conversation next week. Right, now we move on to the Medway Dragons and their new head coach, and ROB POWELL. In fact, I saw their new playing shirts just this morning. Very Catalan Dragons. Looks a bit Bradford Bulls as well, with the black and the red and the yellow. I love the shirt, though, that they're playing in this year. Bit of a change to what they've had in recent years. But it wasn't the shirt that I wanted to talk to Rob about. They have been in pre-season. They begin the season playing this weekend. Thought it would be a great opportunity to have a chat with Rob to reflect on a number of things, how the challenge of being involved with the Medway Dragons is going, what potential and what future he and the club have, and where he hopes to take it, and also to reflect on his time coaching the London Broncos in his second year, and Harlequins Rugby League as it was in the first year that he took over, and to find out a bit more about his feelings of his time there, leaving there, and what he's done since. So I hope you find this chat as interesting as I did. Spent well over half an hour on the phone to ROB POWELL. Recorded 18 minutes of it, which was good. We had a few off-the-record conversations, and then decided to record this for the podcast, and, well, it ended up being 18 minutes long. So it's a long interview. It's a good chat, though. I hope you find it interesting. There's a lot of topics covered in there, but this is the former London Broncos head coach, former Quins Rugby League head coach, now the head coach at Medway Dragons, ROB POWELL. Rob, well, I was very pleased to learn of the news that you were back in rugby league, or back doing things and involved with the Medway Dragons. I mean, there seemed to be a club that are building and going in the right direction. I guess, was that part of the reason why you've ended up there?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of that was to do with the decision to make the jump back into rugby league. I had been doing some bits as a consultancy with the rugby league through Dan Steele, doing some things in East London, but the actual coaching side of it at a club is really because it was such a progressive club, and I could see the drive that Martin Coyd had for it, and the potential of the facilities they've got, and the demographics of that area, which is probably something that's been discussed before.
I mean, it does seem like they've got a plan, and they obviously wanted someone with some experience and knowledge to take them to a step above, I guess, where they are at the moment, or 2 steps above where they are at the moment, 3 steps above.
Yeah, that's it. I think that Martin was keen just to get some other people involved that can, potentially add a bit to what they're already doing. With no discredit to anyone that's been doing things there. There's some very good people there, and they've engaged some more volunteers and people to be involved around the first team this year, and everyone knows all the work that's been doing with the juniors underneath before that. But I think it was really just to give it a bit more of a focus and a bit more of another driver to try and lead it through a little bit as well. So that was the thinking behind it, and obviously they want to progress as far as quickly as possible, and some of my experiences through the performance stuff will hopefully enable them to do that.
I mean, I'm not sure a call like that would ever be expected, when Martin called you to be involved. I mean, were you expecting it, or if not, what did you think when the call came through?
Well, I've been in touch with Martin a little bit over the years, and we speak rarely, regularly anyway, just over little bits and pieces. So when he rang me, I was sort of wasn't too much out of sync with the normal way things happen for us to speak. But as soon as he mentioned it, it made sense to me to at least consider it. I had no sort of preconceived ideas or personal ego matters over the level that they were playing at. I just thought it was an opportunity to work at somewhere where there was good potential, already some good players in the existing system, and clearly the amount of work that was going on underneath, there was going to be a lot of good players coming through, which has proved to be the case. So to me, it was just a good opportunity, and when the call came, I wasn't sort of took aback or anything like that. I considered what was being said and just thought it seemed to fit with the other things that I was doing in my current situation, really.
And how has it gone since then? You've had a 6-week pre-season, a couple of weeks longer than I think they usually do, but you start this weekend.
Yeah, so it's been good. There's going to be stumbling blocks along the way, and it's a step on the journey, and this week will mark another milestone along that step. So it's going to happen over time. The pre-season's been good. The players that have attended have trained hard, learned quickly, and there's been some really good attitude and application going on. As any club at that level who's competing at that level, the issues around it are going to be obtaining the consistency within training from the players and their ability to get there because of their work. And that's the same that you'll happen at any amateur level. As the club gets more established and that team gets more established like the rest of their club, then it's going to be more of a first choice for guys to come training, and other things will be put on slightly on a back burner, whether that's other sports like rugby union or the decision between leaving work early or trying to get to training because they know they've got to turn up to get selected to play. So I think if you were speaking to anyone that was coaching at this sort of level, especially around London, you're going to be talking about the same sorts of things. What I can't fault is the attitude of the guys that have turned up and the way they've applied themselves to want to train, and we're getting decent numbers and more new faces are coming to play rugby league at the senior level at Medway. So I think we've had 34 different people train, which is great really, considering I don't think there was that many faces that played for them for the majority of last year.
How different is the challenge this year for you as a coach to what you've faced in sort of like professional competition? Because I guess the challenge of getting the best out of the same bunch is the same, but the fact is your bunch may well change more when you're at an amateur club, and equally it may change less because you can't bring in any other players as such. You're not signing players, you're just taking who's available.
Yeah, there's an element of that, but because of my background, having come through a number of different coaching environments, it's just, I'm thinking back to challenges I've had in the past, and having not just, because I didn't play in a professional team and then go straight into coaching. These are problems or issues or constraints that I've faced right from the off in coaching, 15 years ago when I started. So there's always been different problems and issues and constraints and things that need to be solved, and they're no easier or hard at whatever level you're playing at. At whatever the level, the trick is to try and coach the people that are in front of you and try and get them to want to be part of a team and get better. And those remain the same whether you're coaching at Medway, London Broncos, an NRL team or anything else. So in that sense, it's the same thing. It's coaching people. Clearly, at that sort of community level, there is the challenge of different people coming in and trying to engage them to want to stay around. But I think if you give them a good environment, you'll find that people tend to turn up more regularly, and you end up with more numbers. And if the product's good and the experience is good, you'll end up with more success.
Do you know what to expect from a side like this when you go into a season, or is it really difficult because I guess you don't really know too much about the opposition, and it must be a certain element of sort of finding your feet as you go?
Yeah, there is that, and that's why it's part of a journey for the club. You don't know what the other teams are going to be like, and year to year at the community game, the quality of teams changes. You get teams come and go, and there's not many in London that have had long-term sustainable success, just because of the nature of the level that they operate at, and people move and people go, and you get people come in from overseas and they go, or they go to another club. So we don't particularly know the standards of the oppositions that we're going to face, and again, week to week that will change. At Super League level, where another team might have 10 injuries, well, here you might have 10 people unavailable or away because they're on holidays or whatever else. So it's just a different sort of challenge, and you can't do your preparation on the other teams because that sort of information is rarely available to you.
And you mentioned as well that you were involved with doing a bit of consultancy in East London in terms of rugby league before all this happened. But what was your route having left the Broncos as they were in your second season? Because I think initially you went to do some rugby union coaching in Wales.
Yeah, so following leaving the Broncos, which was sort of mid-July, and then I officially left in August. Probably spent a few weeks out of the game. It had been, a pretty long and hard couple of years, and it was probably time just to reflect on things and try and work out the path moving forward. But pretty quickly, I got an opportunity to go and work at Cardiff Blues, who at the time were playing in the Heineken Cup and are in the old Celtic League, which is called the Rabo 12 Direct. So I was working there on a part-time basis, and that became a full-time role pretty soon, a full-time consultancy, if you like, where I was a permanent member as the defence coach with them. So that was another challenge for me, because I went from having played rugby union as a youngster, and then having no involvement, for many years, and purely only watched some games on TV, but all my experience in league and going into the top flight environment there with sort of 10 international players and a lot of expectations because of it being Welsh rugby. That's what there is. So that was a real good learning curve for me, and gave me probably another string to my bow in terms of being able to add some rugby union to my rugby league experience.
You talk about the reflection, the couple of weeks that you took out once you'd left Broncos. How do you now reflect on your 2 years with the club?
Disappointment, because like everyone else, I wanted it to do well. I'm quite a proud person, and I don't really like to see things that I'm involved with not working out. That's the honest truth. So a lot of my experiences within coaching have been pretty positive, and have married up with some successful teams, whether that's the Broncos reserves getting into playoffs or university side winning competitions or amateur side winning competitions. So it was a time when I look back always and think that although I've got no regrets over the decision to take the job, and no particular gripes over the decision to ask me to stand down and take another role in the club, whether that was to be an assistant or another capacity, I will be disappointed about the fact that we didn't achieve what I hope we will be able to achieve, especially in the second year there. I thought the first year that we probably were about where we would be with the playing resources that we had, and it was not a bad environment to be around in the sense that although people didn't want to lose, there was a bit of an expectation that we probably couldn't achieve a massive amount more with what we had. In the second year there was clearly higher expectations, and we weren't able to match those expectations with the performances on the field.
I mean, there was much made of at the time of you being the youngest coach in Super League, and maybe it was overplayed a little bit. I mean, you must be proud of sort of what you did in a way, and the achievement as such as being in that position. I mean, is it something that you would look to do again in the future, possibly, or not?
Yeah, I mean, I look. Like I say, I've done lots of different things and coached in different environments and in different sports now, and I want to achieve things in coaching. I want to be able to be part of teams, but I wouldn't say that I want to have. Definitely that's my goal, just to be able to coach a Super League team. I've gone in a different route now. I've got my own company. I do offer coaching consultancy, and I've got a number of contracts which I enjoy doing as well. It's just a completely different thing. Professional coaching, you're very focused on the first team and the results on a weekend, and it's a great place to be when things are going well. Clearly it's a more difficult place to be when things aren't going so well, but I won't reflect back on it with regret over the situation, and more just that I'd like to think that in the future I'd probably be in a better position if something like that did come along again, to deal with some of the things that were happening. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a difficult environment to get success, and probably a difficult place to get success for a group. There was a lot of talk of, at the time, after I left, that group should be performing better and should be winning more games, and I certainly had that expectation as well. When we recruited that squad, a lot of people, both in London and the Rugby League and in wider Rugby League, thought that was a team that was going to be able to do more, and I think that it shows that it's not quite as simple as that. Certainly the year after I left, the results didn't change, so the players that were all meant to be of a standard that should be winning those sort of games and getting to playoffs still weren't able to achieve. So I'm not using that as a cop-out for either the recruitment or for my performance as a coach, but I just think that it's probably worth pointing out that there's quite a lot of different things that go on in order for the mechanics of a team to function well and to operate and to be successful.
I mean, it's difficult, and it's been a difficult number of years, hasn't it, really, for the Super League squad within London. I guess there may be something that you keep an eye out. I'm not sure you'll sort of check on the results minute by minute every weekend, but, I mean, are you still interested? You still look at what's happening, still talk to people that are involved?
Absolutely. Have a massive amount of buy-in to London Rugby League and what happens at the top level. I've lived in London since 2004, and I've always been involved in Rugby League, other than a very short period when I left before starting a consultancy in Rugby League development in East London with Dan Steele. So I've always been involved, and I've always supported and wanted it to be as good as it can be, both at the junior and developing ages all the way up to the first grade. I was fortunate enough to be involved in the first grade team for 6 years as an assistant and then head coach, and I always look for the results. I'm not in contact with as many people around the club because there's been so many changes in terms of personnel, both staff and players, from even when I was there, but still talk to people in the game and still look for the results, and still interested to see how they're going on, and disappointed when they lose, as anyone else would be.
And whenever people talk about sort of your particular career and your achievements, so the South London Storm and the success that you had with them at the amateur level is never too far away. How much have you enjoyed being back at that level as well? Because it's obviously a level that you really thoroughly enjoyed and had great success in years ago.
Yeah, I think I would have taken it with some, with some balance, really. I look back at that stage, and yes, I had a lot of success. The team had a lot of success, and I was able to be part of that team, and we enjoyed it. And there was a good group of people around. But I was also on the pathway then of trying to get to the next bit. And I don't mean that I didn't enjoy my time there, but I'd been setting myself up and doing whatever I could in order to make the jump to the next stage. And luckily, I was identified as someone that could do that, and was taken to the professional club. So it's a bit different now. I've been there, and although I'd like to work in professional rugby again, I'm 10 years older, and I'm a little bit different to what I was back then, and probably I'm looking this now as more of understanding my role within this club, which is to try and help it develop to the next stage. So the expectations of what I want out of it are slightly different. It's not in order to help facilitate me and trying to get me onto the next rung on the ladder. It's more to help that club to become as good as it can be. And clearly that was a motivation at South London as well. But at the time I was young, in my early 20s, and trying to fight to get up to the next stage and trying to find a way through there as well, which is different now.
And talking as we did before we started recording about the timeline of events just to get things sorted, weird how things have worked out, because your first year as coaching when they were Harlequins Rugby League, you had the first on-the-road game down in Kent, and it was the following year when sort of a potential move almost happened, but you could have ended up, that sort of Kent area, and that move could have happened years ago, potentially.
Yeah, potentially, and there was obviously pretty serious conversations. More so after I'd left, there was conversations in the year that I was my second year when we played the game there, and clearly there was a developing and growing relationship, or the potential for one. But that said, it was the following year, I think, where there was more serious conversations, when it was becoming clear that they weren't going to be able to play at the Stoop anymore for a number of reasons. And therefore they were looking at really where they could be. So I'm not sure how that went, because I wasn't party to that at the time. But obviously I've ended up getting off the train at Gillingham at the same place where the ground is now. So it's very interesting how things do come around like that.
So that's Rob Powell of the Medway Dragons, their head coach. Their season starts on Saturday. They're in the South East Premier League. They're taking on the Sussex Merlins down in Brighton, and we'll include the result on next week's programme. In fact, for a couple of seasons, I've obviously included the results from the regional divisions that are obviously starting around this time of year. If you are involved, if you'd like to be involved in the podcast, if you'd like to record something in particular about your division, your team, then as ever I say, more than happy to have contributions. If you're an aspiring journalist, or you know someone who is, and they want some experience in radio production or whatever it is, always happy. To be fair, I'll be honest, I haven't got the time to put that sort of research in and to record the things and get them done. I'm more than happy to include other people's work and contributions if you'd like to do it. And to be fair, I'll extend that as a wider invitation to more than just the results and particular match reports or summaries. If you have an idea, you want something including on the podcast, you can. A couple of years ago, we had a great series of looking back at the history of the top level side in London. A great series of little short snippets which we ran on the BBC London Rugby League programme. So anything like that, any ideas you've got, as I say, it's going to be difficult for me to invent new features to include them, but if others are willing to contribute, I'm always happy to have things like that in the podcast. So do please get in touch. On the email rldownsouth@gmail.com, you can tweet at Ian Ramsdale and use the hashtag why not. Many people are. It's great to see. RLDS for Rugby League Down South. And finally for this week, we'll hear from the Leigh Academy in Dartford, a school in Dartford, out in the east of London. I suppose they're sort of out towards, is it Kent? Is Dartford Kent? Yeah, I suppose it is, isn't it? I got an email, was it last week or the week before, from their PE teacher, Mr. Stamato, or Matteo. And last year, their Year 9 girls team won the Champion Schools competition. The story, I'll have to dig out the old interview. You'll find it on one of our old programs on you have to go to YouTube to find it, but search for Rugby League Down South in YouTube. Hopefully it should come up and you have to scroll through. I'll try and find which episode it is while the interview's playing. But yes, they won last year, and I got an email from Mr. Tomato saying that, Mr. Stamato I should say, I hope that's the correct way of pronouncing it. I'm going to be told off if not. He said they've got through to the national final again as Year 10s this year. Great bunch of girls. It's great to see them doing so well. So I thought I have to get them on. The game isn't until the final isn't until the Challenge Cup week. That's when the finals of the champion schools are playing. So not until sort of mid to end of August. But I thought I'd have a chat now. Great to see the girls doing so well. Great to see them enjoying their rugby league, and we widen the chat out as well, not to talk just about the school, the girls and the school, but wider about more educational things within rugby league and the rugby league in the area as well. So here is a chat with Mr. Stamato, or Matteo, as I liked. Mr. Stamato from the Leigh Academy. Here's my chat with Matteo. Matteo, well, your email last week came as, I won't say a surprise, but very good news. You seem to have a very good girls' team at your school.
Yeah, it seems to be fantastic. The girls, the current Year 10 girls, have been absolutely fantastic in the sense that they want to achieve and they want to keep going and progressing, and they really do want to retain that title again this year. We've had lots of help, firstly from the school, allowing the girls time after school to train and practice, and help from Mark Ruffsedge from Medway Dragons, who gives up his time to come down and share his expertise in the world of rugby league with us as well. So it's a combined effort, and the girls are really committed to the final in August.
Well, if I remember correctly, the reason that they played last year, and I think it was, I'm right in saying it was your first year at the school, or your first year whether you were playing rugby league, because it all came from them, didn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. It was a funny baptism of fire coming to the school with this group of girls demanding to play rugby league because they had dabbled with it in the past, and I took it on, and I am a convert. I won't lie. I still currently play rugby union myself, but the skills can transfer from one code to the other, and the girls are reaping the rewards of that. And they just put that into practice week in, week out in their training. And when they do come to the competitions and play opposition, they're very committed in what they want to do.
Just on that topic, how difficult or easy do you find it coaching this side, in terms of, like you say, you play rugby union, you're looking for the transferable skills. I mean, is it a good challenge for you as a PE teacher to try and teach this other sport?
It is, I won't lie, Ian. I've got to say I do need to go away and do my homework from time to time.
We all do, don't worry.
But one thing I've always learned through the years of coaching and playing rugby, regardless of what code it is, it's probably one of the simplest games you'll ever come across, in the sense that everyone's got to be able to pass and receive a pass and make their tackles, and fundamentally both codes are an invasion game. Once the girls have understood the basic principles of that they take it on board, and they just go with the game and look to hit the gaps and play for each other, and that is it. Just keep it simple is one of the mottos we have here.
So your Year 10 girls this year, defending champions. I mean, there aren't many schools that have got to national finals in recent years, and they've got to back-to-back finals. You said they're keen and they're really ambitious and they want to retain that title. How much of a chance have they got?
They've always got a chance, and I'm very confident. And weekly, when we meet with the girls, the first question I will always ask is, do you think we can win? And it's just met with absolutely, sir, no problem, sir, we know what we've got to do. So I have every faith in this group of girls. There's a couple of new faces which are there. They've strengthened the team as well. So I have every faith in them. We're all very excited. it's a long time between now and August, so there's lots of time to do lots of training and video analysis of how they've performed and how the professionals perform as well. They're very keen to see how they do it and how they should do it. So they're always learning new stuff.
It sounds very professional.
Yeah, we're always trying to just try and mirror what we see on TV, and hopefully if we can get some support from the local clubs, especially London Broncos being our local club and our southern sort of representative, try and get support from those guys as well, just so they've got something to aspire to. And then the flip side of that, if any of them want to take it on beyond the school day, they've got a link they can go to as well. So it's all for the girls, and they know they can have an opportunity to rewrite history, and it will be there forever. So they did that last year, and not many, as you say, not many people have the opportunity to go back and sort of put things in such a perspective and push things forward. So they have that opportunity, and they're going to grasp that.
And with these girls as well, I mean, they're going up against a team from Rochdale, is that right? And you've played them already this year?
The actual final, they played in a national competition up in Rochdale. There was about 9 other schools in that. The actual school we're playing is Castleford Academy, who I believe have had success in the final themselves at other year groups.
They're very, very successful at school competitions, yes. And in fact, they were the beaten finalists when a Year 7 side won at Wembley a couple of years ago. I think it was Howard of Effingham from Surrey that beat them. But yes, they have a very good record in the school competition to Castleford High. Castleford Academy.
It's one of those sort of things. As soon as you mention the name Castleford, people know what you're going to get. You're going to get a very strong team, a very committed team, a very, very knowledgeable team as well in what they're doing. I mean, we have to admit they live and breathe it up there. And then you've got little old Leigh Academy down in Dartford who come up trumps, and they know they're going to be in a very strong game, and it will be slightly different to the outcome that we had in the competition back in early April.
I mean, you can get horribly stereotypical when it comes to things like this, but I always trot out the story that I, a couple of years ago, went down to the Twickenham Stoop, where the Harlequins Rugby League, as they were known at that time, the London Broncos, who were they were having an exhibition game. I think it was some MPs and former players against a girls' school side from Leeds. And they went onto the field, and there was kind of rumour of, should we just play tag? Should we just play, touch, whatever it was? And the girls were like, no, we're playing full contact. And it was amazing, really, to see. And they were well up for it. I mean, it's easy to think that sometimes, a girls' rugby league game might not be quite as tough and bruising as the men's game, but they are fierce when it comes to getting on the field. Some of these teams.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've never seen my girls take a backward step, and that's been echoed in every competition that we've ever played in. It is a cauldron of brutality sometimes, and sometimes that's the nature of the game. But the girls know the techniques, and there's no malicious play or anything like that. It's just hard, solid rugby league being played, not only by us but by all the other teams that we come across as well, and it's great to see, and it's great to see these different types of people taking on rugby league and playing it as it should be played.
And these girls, they're in Year 10 now. They've got one more year left of their secondary education before they go on to further or possible higher education. I mean, it gets that crucial stage, doesn't it, where these girls have been playing rugby league. They get to an age where there are other things going on, and they have other interests, and they may not play as much sport. And especially in a sport like rugby league, where they don't have that school environment, they don't have someone like you who can guide them through. With there not being many female teams in the South, I don't know. I mean, I dare say, can they form their own club of their own side of their own? But there is a big danger that once all this good work's been put in, they might end up drifting off elsewhere.
There is that danger, and it's something that needs to be addressed, not only by the school, but I think by the rugby league governing body as well. You do have that divide still, which is disappointing because the amount of years it's been going on. But the school competition that they've set up has helped, and I think the simplicity of the game and the speed of the game is very appealing to everybody, both males and females. It may well be the last year that Leigh Academy this year group actually participate in the competition, because, as you said, because of the age group that overseas next year. It's a very grey area, an emotional area for the girls and myself to say this could well be the last year. Whether they go on beyond year 11 to participate in rugby league, it's doubtful. But I do know a large percentage of those girls do participate in sport, in a different type of sport outside of the school. So I'm quietly happy that they do continue with a form of physical education somewhere else afterwards. But would it be rugby league? It's unlikely, just because of the provision that's available.
But what's this? As for your school, there's another team coming through, aren't there? A possible Year 8?
Yeah, there's our current Year 8 girls team. They are going to Leeds on the bank holiday weekend, the 5th and 6th. So we need to travel up on that one, and they'll be playing in the national competition up north as well in Leeds. This is their second attempt at it. They've progressed last year. They got to the southeast stage and didn't proceed any further. This year they've built upon that, and now they won the southeast competition, so they'll be representing the southeast of England against all the northern teams and schools in Leeds on the bank holiday weekend. And hopefully, if they come in the top 2 in that competition, they will be joining the Year 10 girls at Richmond for the national final.
And what's your general opinion, a year on now, almost a year on from when we last spoke about the game of rugby league and the work that it's doing? Because you were new to it, you've seen it now. I mean, what are your impressions of how it is in the south and, down towards the sort of southeast that you are?
I think there's still a very large growth that could happen here. Keeping an eye on all the changes that may happen to the structure of the Super League in England, the promotion and relegation, and the opportunity for other slightly smaller clubs to get themselves into that Super League is interesting. I think as a governing body, the rugby league representatives need to come together to say if this is going to work and it's going to be more inclusive and to a certain extent a global sport rather than just segregating it predominantly up north. They really do need to think about what is happening down south, especially in the southeast. I mean, we've got the infrastructure down here. It's not as if we can't travel to play some of these other teams that could be created. I think the amount of money that the Super League generates, it will be an opportunity for them to sort of open up to the southeast and show people what the sport can offer them. I think it'd be a great opportunity.
So that's the PE teacher at the Leigh Academy in Dartford, Mr. Stamato, or Matteo. And great to see the girls doing so well. I have just had a look actually as for which old podcast it is. If you want to go back to go to YouTube and search for Rugby League Down South, or probably do the search for hashtag RLDS, #RLDS, and we'll throw up the podcast. And it's episode 24 from last year, called Get Some Perspective. You can hear another interview with Matteo Stamato about the success of the girls from last year, if you'd like to listen again. But yeah, good luck to the girls. The final is on the 22nd of August in Richmond, so maybe a few Southerners can get along to watch the girls. I know a few people went there last year, and Mark Ruffsedge as well, who got a mention from Matteo as well, said on Twitter, in addition to that, another 5 Kent teams made the National Schools Festivals as well. So great to see many Kent teams doing so well. In fact, we're Kent heavy, aren't we, on the Rugby League Down South podcast this week. But that's it for this week's programme. Thank you once again for listening. We are back next week, hopefully with more stories and a chat with the new people and the management structure at London Broncos. That's all on next week's Rugby League Down South.